Greetings all. Welcome to this morning's CalPro Administrator Forum. I see many of you popping into the Zoom room, and we want to welcome you for today's important webinar on integrated education and training and integrated English literacy and civics education guidance and support. I'm Marianne Fidelia McLeod. I'm the director of CalPro. And as you all come in, I want to say thanks for joining us. Today's session, I think, is especially relevant as those of us facilitating have been discussing. It's really about focusing our service for adult learners, with adult learners at the center of that service, to continue elevating and giving voice to adult learners in the state of California, and assuring their success and laying pathways for their career and social success. So thank you for joining us. And we're really pleased to be doing this session. And we come to the session with a great sense of purpose and a great sense of focus. And I hope you can join us in that. Let's see if I forward. Great. Really, today, I want to thank each and every one of our facilitators and trainers. Joining us from California Department of Ed, and you'll be hearing from them very shortly, are Doctors Carolyn Zachry and Cory Rayala, from CASAS, Lori Howard, and from the CalPro team, myself, Amy Dalsimer and Sudie Whalen, who are integrated education and training subject matter experts, and Josie Cleveland, who will be providing technical support, and you'll be hearing from her in just a moment as well. This session is part of the CalPro Administrators webinar series. This webinar series provides a venue for adult educators and administrators to critically engage with experts and peers on topics that affect the development, management, and sustainability of their adult education programs. So we feel that this topic in this session is particularly timely. And our goals and objectives today are pretty straightforward: increase our understanding, our shared understanding of IET, IELCE policy planning and practice, and to learn about CDE policy and guidance, IELCE planning processes and expectations from CASAS, and to learn more about high quality IET program design and supportive resources from CalPro. And I'll hand it to you, Josie.
Awesome. Thank you, Marianne. Hi, everyone. Welcome. Thank you all for being here. We're very excited about today's event and the information that we're going to bring to you. My name is Josie Cleveland. I'm here to provide any technical support that you may need during the meeting. And I also provide technical support for CalPro as a whole. So if at any point you have any questions or you need any help with tech-related items, please email me at jcleveland@aar.org, or you can give our office a call, and you're welcome to give me a private message here in Zoom if anything comes up and you need any assistance. This notice that you see on your screen is just letting you know that this webinar is being recorded so that we can provide it later on if we need it. And secondly, if you are interested in a certificate of attendance for today, after completing the evaluation and the entire meeting, please reach out to calpro@air.org and we will generate a certificate for you. That is all I have, so I'm going to hand it back to Marianne.
Thank you so much, Josie. And with that, I'm very happy to hand things off to Doctors Carolyn Zachry and Cory Rayala from CDE. And we do have time for Q&A. So what we're going to ask is, given the number of us on this Zoom meeting today, that you please post your questions into the Zoom chat function, and I'll be scanning it along with others on the CalPro team. And when we reach a point where we can do some Q&A response, I'll read out those questions, and hopefully we'll have time for as many as we can get to. So with that, Cory and Carolyn, I hand it off to you.
All right, thank you so much. And Josie, if you'll watch the room for admitting people, I know I've been sitting here admitting everyone, so if you can take on that role now, that would be awesome. So welcome everyone. I feel like I've seen so many of you recently at the Cape Summit and many of you again yesterday on Zoom for our networking meeting. And so welcome this morning. And we're going to be talking about really focusing on integrated education and training and really diving into the T in training. And we've gone through a lot of work over the years within our office, participating in every IET design camp that the American Institutes of Research and OCDE have laid out for us to participate in. We're currently involved in advanced IET coaching, and our focus is truly on this idea of training and what is training and how do we want to define and how are we defining training in California. I like to say that we've been doing integrated education and training in California since the beginning. When the first adult school started in San Francisco, they had students there learning English and the trades. And so really, I brag a bit at that with my colleagues from other states that IET really started here. And the other piece that I think California is excelling at is this idea of English literacy and civics education. That's been a cornerstone of our adult education programs in California, again, for a very, very long time. And we do those well with our co-ops. Our co-ops are kind of the envy of many other states, and they would love to be able to be using our co-ops in their states. And so we know that we have laid good foundations for all of this work, but we really need to focus on what is training and what is training that actually leads to a student earning some type of a industry recognized credential, certification, licensure that allows them to be mobile, right? That allows them to move from one area to another if they need to, and that certificate or credential is going to be just as valued wherever they're going. And that's one of the reasons we're really looking at this whole tightening up of the T and tightening up of training. So Cory, I think I'm going to hand this off to you now. I was just doing an introduction and
Great.
Cory's going to kick us off here.
Thanks, Carolyn, and welcome everybody. Again, my name is Cory Rayala in the Adult Ed office at the CDE. So for today's CDE portion of this presentation, we're going to focus on three things. We'll spend a little bit of time going over the definitions and regulations of IELCE and IET, and maybe even talk about the relationship between those two acronyms. I know there's some confusion. What is IELCE, IET? What's the difference? So we'll go over that. And then we've developed a new document that we're calling an IET at a glance document that we think will help the field. So the second part of it will be going over that, and we can share that document with you. And then we're going to open it up to questions. So as Marianne mentioned, if you have questions, please do put them in the chat, and we will cover as many of them as time permits. Okay. So just getting us started, here's the definition of IELCE, Integrated English Literacy and Civics Education. This comes directly from the WIOA Act. I'm not going to read it all, but you can see that it emphasizes services for English learners. It has this interesting thing about professionals with degrees and credentials in their native countries. It certainly talks about acquiring basic and more advanced skills needed to function effectively as parents, workers, and citizens. The second to last line talks about citizenship and civic participation. That's one of the reasons we love our co-ops, because it is a requirement of IELCE, and those co-ops do that so well. And then the very last line may include workforce training. So it's confusing. Why does it say may? Just very basically, these services are allowed in two ways, either as activities under Section 231. That's what we consider ELCE or EL Civics. In those cases, the workforce training is optional. Or if it's delivered as a program under Section 243, that's IELCE program, then that workforce training is a requirement. And really for the rest of this presentation, we're going to be talking about IELCE as a program and the IET requirements within that. So this is from the regulations. This IELCE as a program under Section 243 needs to be designed to prepare English learners for and place them in unsubsidized employment in in-demand industries and occupations that lead to economic self-sufficiency. So just real important right off the bat, this is about getting our students jobs. Very clearly stated there. And then also number two, integrating with the local workforce development system and its functions. This one's super critical because we realize that we can't do this all ourselves. We need partnerships. And this is calling out the fact that we can partner with our other WIOA titles and additional partners in our regions. And then at the bottom, the IELCE program must be provided in combination with integrated education and training, IET activities. So what are these IET activities? So IET is really just a service delivery model. And it's designed to provide adult education activities concurrently and contextually with workforce preparation and workforce training. Visually, here's how we would represent that. You can see the red circle is what we do in adult ed. The blue circle, workforce preparation. Yellow circle, workforce training. And IET is the heart of that. It's where those three come together intentionally, contextually, and at the same time. So what does this concurrently and contextually mean? It means that within the overall scope of the program, the training, the three activities have to be of sufficient intensity and quality. I want you to remember that phrase because that's something we'll come back to later. And based on the most rigorous research available, it has to use occupational relevant instructional materials, and they have to occur simultaneously. And in this case, when we say simultaneously, we mean at the same time, not sequentially. Additionally, to meet IET requirements, an IELCE program has to have a single set of learning objectives. Oftentimes we can see these in an integrated syllabus or course outline that's designed with the training instructor and the adult education instructor jointly. Has to be aligned with the state's content standards for adult education, and very importantly, has to be part of a career pathway. And then just one more here. This is a nuance that is sometimes confusing. So I've already mentioned that IELCE implemented as a program must include workforce training. However, the federal regulations acknowledge that not every student in an IELCE program will be taking advantage of that training. And so we say that English language learners in an IELCE program have to have the opportunity to be enrolled, to be co-enrolled in a class or program that offers workforce training within their career pathway. And very important, if there's no enrollment in a training program, then we think that it's not a valid training program. So we want to see at least some enrollment in that. I'm going to take a brief pause here just to see if anybody has any questions about the definitions and regulations before I move into our at a glance document.
Or if I may, this is Sudie. So that means that if a student has done the IELCE part, but not an IET, not a training, then they are still an IELCE student, but not an IET student, correct?
Yeah. I wouldn't word it as done the IELCE part, because I see IELCE as the whole thing. But if they haven't gotten to the training, but they're on that pathway and the training's available, then yes, you're absolutely right. That would be considered an IELCE student. And those of you interested in payment points, that person would be eligible for that lower level COAP payment point. Sarah, go ahead.
Hi, thank you. I have a question about how much of this chain do we as adult schools need to carry? For example, you're talking about unsubsidized employment that leads to self-sufficiency. And we know that here in the Bay Area, entry-level jobs in any industry do not lead to self-sufficiency here in California. Okay, so and we have students who come with us with varying educational backgrounds, and many of them, most of the people that we work with at our school do not have advanced degrees in their own country. Some do, but most do not. So our program is currently working on getting them on a pathway, in a career pathway, with industry-related training that's going to hopefully move them on to another level of education and another level of training that will eventually lead to self-sufficiency. We're focused on helping them get entry-level jobs so that they can earn and learn while they continue their education, and hopefully in the future move towards community college or college and get a more a job career that leads to self-sufficiency. But in our house, we don't have the capacity to take our students who have had very little educational opportunity in their home country and get them to self-sufficiency at a California level. So how much, do you understand my question?
Yeah, so Sarah, let me jump in. So I understand your question, and I'm going to jump in and Cory can add on to this. So first of all, in adult ed, we like to make sure that we are doing everything we can for our students to be successful. And sometimes what I think that means is that we see a new program, i.e. LCE, IET, and we go, oh, let's dive in and let's do that also. And sometimes we don't need to do everything that is available for us to earn payment points in. So if what you're doing in your program is that your students are successfully moving along a pathway, that you are helping them transition to a job, an entry-level job, or you're helping them transition to credit-bearing community college classes, then that's great. And focus on ABE, ASE, and English language civics education. And you don't have, not everyone has to jump into the IET pool. I was sharing this with a community-based organization recently who said, we're trying to figure out how to do IET, but our students who are coming to us are really low literacy students, that they're newcomers to the United States, and they have that their demographic is a very low literacy student. And they were saying, I don't know how to get into this IET thing. And I said, you don't have to. IET is an option. It's not something that you have to do. So I think it's really important to think about your programs and where you're excelling. And the other piece of this is that you don't have to do all of the components. And that's the piece again, as adult educators, we tend to say, okay, and as administrators, okay, now our program is going to take on this training piece. And we're not going out, I don't think we're doing a great job of trying to partner with our local workforce boards, with allowing them to help with the training component and paying for that. So I think we're trying to do a lot of things, and it's just really important that we realize that IET is an optional program, not a mandatory program, and that if you don't want to jump into that, then you don't have to. Cory, anything else to add?
I think that's perfect. Thanks, Carolyn. I want to make sure we have time for really the meat and potatoes of this presentation, which is the new at a glance document. But I see another question in the chat from Zoe about if a person completes the ESL part of the IELCE in June and then starts the CNA program in late June, goes on to earn certification, do they not meet the simultaneous requirement? I'm assuming the student doesn't meet the requirement. I would say, I would agree. Really, the idea is that it's happening at the same time, that all three components, in this case, if it's ESL and workforce prep and training, at some point in that pathway, they should be happening at the same time. It's fine if there's a on-ramp to get students ready for the IET portion. And if that includes ESL and workforce prep before the training starts, that's okay. But at some point, that center of the Venn diagram should be happening.
Cory, you're going to go a little more into what co-enrollment or simultaneous enrollment is like.
I don't have those in these slides, but I could certainly talk to that. Yeah.
Okay, or I can answer. So the question in the chat is the opportunity to be co-enrolled. So in my mind, this would be one of the pieces that Cory talked about in one of the previous slides was this idea of a common set of learning objectives. And so the idea is that a student might be in a welding class and needs to understand, so you have let's say you have a welding program, and or the welding program is at the community college. And so the ESL teacher and the welding teacher are working together on that common set of learning objectives that are really focused on the language of welding and the literacy pieces of welding. And that's what IET really focuses on, is while we want students to master English, sometimes they need those extra supports in technical language, which would be, let's say, welding. And so the ESL teacher and the welding teacher work together on the learning objectives. That's like the syllabus and the outline and perhaps even lessons. And then that ESL teacher is going over that vocabulary and that information with the students, let's say on a Tuesday, and they go to welding class on Wednesday. Then they go back to ESL class on Thursday and then welding on Friday. And so that would be co-enrollment. The other way is that the teacher would be in the welding class or an instructional aide could be in the welding class with those students to provide additional support on the spot. Cory, anything to add there?
I think that's great. Just to emphasize the part that Bob's asking about, the opportunity part, that's really at the most basic level. That just means that you are either offering that training to your students, or you're partnering with somebody who can offer that training to your students, and you can demonstrate that you have your students enrolled in that training, some of your students enrolled in that training. That's what we think of when we're talking about opportunity.
And that there's the single set of learning objectives. I keep going back to that. I think that's an important component.
That's a great point. This is not sort of incidental co-enrollment. This is intentional, integrated co-enrollment.
And Cory and Carolyn, it looks like there's a follow-up. For students who are also working, would it also be acceptable to complete both enrollments in the same year, not at the same time? Could co-enrollment be 2 consecutive classes back to back?
Again, we'd need to maybe look at your program design, and you can put that into your IELCE report and plan. But just on the face of it, again, that sounds sequential to me. Sounds like they do one thing one semester and then do something else the next semester, which is really not in the spirit of IELCE, of IET. Okay, is it okay if I move on to the next one and then we'll open it up for more questions?
Yes, thank you.
Really want to make sure we have time to go over this new document that we have for you. So this is a at a glance document. Thank you, Josie, for putting in the chat. This will also be on the CASAS website. You can see it's dated. I'm sure we'll be updating this, so make sure you always have the most current version of it. This is a way to think about the differences between workforce training and workforce preparation courses. And I'm going to go through it section by section. I'm going to start with this section here, the workforce preparation. And really, this is the section that caused us to create this in the first place. We looked at the IELCE report and plans and noticed some of these courses that were listed under workforce training. And we thought, well, are these really workforce training? And so we had to look more carefully at them. And at least in these cases, we've decided that they are workforce preparation. So just to make it a little easier for you to read, here's the same information on the slides. So they include, workforce prep includes, but it's not limited to, computer basics, computers for ESL, vocational ESL, digital literacy, financial literacy. We see many bridge type courses. We've seen Google Suite Basics, Microsoft Office Basics courses, keyboarding, first aid CPR, OSHA 10, and then also career readiness courses such as soft skills, job prep, job seeking skills, interviewing skills. These are the most common types of courses that we saw in the IELCE report and plans that we feel need to be moved to preparation if they're being considered workforce training, because these we see as workforce prep. And then just a note at the bottom that we will certainly be revisiting this, and we may need to add more as more IELCE report and plans come in. As I mentioned, if you do have these in your if you do have these workforce prep courses listed as workforce training in your IELCE report and plan, when you resubmit, make sure you move those to the workforce prep column, take it out of the workforce training column and put it in the workforce prep column. And then just a reminder, you know, we see, obviously we see workforce preparation as an integral and required part of IET. And just to mention that the Section 243 co-aps are also designed to meet the workforce prep requirement of IET. So you don't necessarily have to have one of these outside courses as long as you're using a co-op. eWorks, I see in the chat. The way I understand eWorks is that it's soft skills training. So that would be a perfect example of workforce preparation. Okay, now moving on to the training. So we have this list of industry recognized training credentials, IRTCs, as we say that for short. And really, this is a list of types of training credentials that we are asking you to demonstrate to us that you're using one of these. I'm going to go over them kind of one by one here. The most common ones we see are these two, and these mostly come from K-12 adult schools. So certificates earned through a CTE program at an LEA that meet the CDE standards, or certificates that meet the minimum threshold for inclusion under the Strengthening Career and Technical Education for the 21st Century Act, which is the new title of Perkins. So if you're a K-12 adult ed program and you have a CTE program, this is generally the most common way that you can show us that you have a industry recognized training credential. And we'll talk a little bit more about these when we get to the conditions. If you're in the community college setting, these two might be the most common that you see. College career development and college preparation, short-term vocational certificates of 48 or more contact hours, or completion of a short-term vocational credit certificate over 6 units. And again, these are generally for the community college. And then there are 4 others that we see occasionally. And again, if this applies to your situation, if, for example, if you're offering training that leads to a state licensure, that would be a great way to demonstrate that it's industry recognized. If it's approved to be on the eligible training provider list, that would be another way. If it meets the threshold for federal student aid at your school, or if there are certificates earned through pre-apprenticeship or apprenticeship programs. So those are 4 other options of ways that you could demonstrate to us that you're offering an industry recognized training credential. And then lastly, there's the other category. We do include this because we realize that that list we just included is not exhaustive, and there may be other models or other opportunities for training out there. However, I will state that we are going to look very carefully. If you select other on your report and plan, we're going to look very carefully at them to make sure that they demonstrate that the proposed IT program meets regional labor market needs, that the courses are of sufficient intensity and quality. There's that term, intensity and quality again. Intensity in this case meaning how many hours are offered, the duration. Quality, getting back to that content. Again, thinking about the integrated syllabus or the course outline. Is the content sufficient? And that those certificates awarded are recognized regionally or statewide. Almost done with this, and then we'll open up back up for questions. So we just have a few additional conditions that we have put on these IRTCs. Carolyn mentioned this earlier, that we find it's very important for the certificates to be transferable. Sometimes the term you hear in the federal language is portable. Just basically the idea is that students are employable beyond their district, for example. And that employment opportunities actually exist beyond the local area. This is mostly applicable to those K-12 adult school IRTCs. So if you're using the CTE pathway, then concentrator and capstone courses are acceptable as workforce training, except for the courses that we listed in this document, in the workforce preparation part of this document. Of course, we may require additional supporting documentation. I've mentioned course outline, syllabus, program of study, sequence of courses. Those help us understand what you're offering. And then we just included a reference, the link there to the CDE's page that includes CTE standards and framework. 2 other conditions. We have asked CASAS to flag any training that comes in under 35 hours, just because we feel like that we need to take a closer look at in terms of that intensity again. We may require additional supporting documentation. And then just to reiterate, if there's 0 enrollment in a training class, then we do not consider that a valid training class. Okay.
Okay.
And
Thank
take a little time for questions if we have time.
Yeah, I believe we do, Cory, and I've been tracking the chat. So if an IET training program has an internship opportunity tied to the program, will this meet the workforce training definition? And Neil Kelly from CDE responded, a yes is a capstone course aligned with CTE standards and framework, but I wanted to give you the opportunity, Cory and Carolyn, to elaborate on that.
Yeah, I'm just looking for it in the chat.
That's Suzanne Murphy's question.
Oh, thank you.
at 9:31.
Yeah,
So
what I would
Mike,
say,
go Cory.
oh, okay, thanks. That internship or externship, I think, is a really crucial component, a really useful component, but it's not the be all end all of a training program. I think most importantly, we want to make sure that um, again, that quality, remember we talked about intensity and quality. The quality would be indicated by what credential is that student earning? What is that credential transferable? Are they able to get a job outside their local area? And then the internship is certainly a great benefit to that as well.
Thank you, Cory. From Toybe, is a co-op required to be IET? Can eWorks or internship replace co-ops by any chance? That's from Toybe at 9:32 a.m.
Yeah, at this point, at least for IELCE, which is the only place we're awarding payment points so far, you do need that co-op because that's the trigger that yields the payment point. It's the passage of the co-op that yields the payment point. So at this point, co-ops are required. That may change in the next grant cycle, or we may keep the co-ops because we really like the co-ops.
Cory, I do have a follow-up question on that one.
Yeah.
So for instance, there is a course that has a heavy training portion, and there is the co-op portion and the English language support portion. We noticed that the class for the training portion and the co-op portion has enough students and all students are attending all those hours. And for co-ops, it's necessary to have a minimum of 30 hours. But the EL support portion, we do not have, out of the 15 students, only 5 of them truly need support. The rest are handling fine with their English language. How would we consider that? So because only 5 of them are attending the EL support portion, would only 5 of them be eligible for the IET? And the other 10 who actually feel like they don't need the EL support is being provided, would those 10 be something we would not account for?
Yeah, I mean, just on a basic level, again, this program is for English learners. And so they would need to be receiving English support, as you say, or English instruction to be considered in IET. Does that answer your question?
Yes, it does, because it's
Okay.
not meeting the 3 legs of the stool. So now they're taking this. The school is offering all 3 legs of the stool, but the students do not feel the need for a 3rd leg. And so, of course, then I feel you answered my question. Thank you.
Yeah, that's a good way of thinking about it. It's those students who are doing all 3 that would be considered IET.
Thank you, Cory and Toybe. Next question from Bruno, put in the chat at 9:32 a.m. And in 2 parts, references the Integrated Education and Training Design Toolkit. And then the question is, isn't an on-ramp to a career pathway, doesn't that mean that IET can be sequential?
Well, I'd have to sort of know more of what you're talking about there, but when we talk about on-ramps or we talk about bridge programs, we see the value of those. We really think that they're almost essential to get, especially if you're talking about English language learners, to get them ready for an IET program. It's just by definition, it's not the IET program. It's the on-ramp or it's the bridge to get them to the IET. So again, essential, valuable, something that we hope to incentivize and pay for with future grant cycles.
If I
but
may
not
add to that,
IET.
this is Bruno speaking. That
Sure.
definition actually comes from the Office of Career Technical Education Design Toolkit, which is my concern, is that definition, which feels to me like an official definition, is not connecting with what I'm hearing now in terms of what an IET is. Because it specifically talks about on-ramps. Even the examples talk about on-ramping, like making a SMART goal, on-ramping students to a career. But now I'm hearing that you need to have a co-enrollment in a vocational, in a vocational program on top of the scaffold of supports for it to count as an IET. So my confusion is coming from the official definitions, which aren't quite matching what I'm hearing today.
I just noticed your previous chat there. So program goals describe the overall desired outcomes of the IET program.
So, Cory, I'm going to ask Amy if she can kind of help with that. And I see that Phil Villamore also has his hand up. But Amy, any insight you can provide with that?
I think the other piece maybe that we want to turn to both in WIOA and I would suggest looking at the advanced IET materials, which are put out by OCTAE, the federal agency that also I think helps with this. And we're going to share some of those resources today. But the piece, Cory, that from the WIOA text that maybe we want to add is that they're very clear about offering the program concurrently and contextually. And that's in the language too. But Bruno, I understand like bridge, on-ramps, pathways, this terminology can be very confusing. So today we'll be sharing some more resources that I think will help to kind of illuminate what we mean, what the federal government and what CDE means by that, if that's helpful.
Thanks, Amy.
Thank you, Amy. And we do have a couple of more presentations, so I'll ask, there's a number of questions which we will note, and I'm trying to take them in the order that they were put into the chat. If the sequence of ESL from Sandy, forgive me, Kawamura, I hope I pronounced your name correctly. If the sequence of ESL and training classes spills across 2 program years, will that still count as a payment point in the first year, second year?
Well, the interesting thing about that is, so if the training is happening in 2 years and the student is in that training in both years and takes a COAP and passes a COAP, they could actually earn a COAP payment point in both years.
Thank you, Cory. And
I'm wondering, Marianne, since we don't have a lot of time, we can take some of these and move them to the very end. But Phil has had his hand up for quite a while and didn't put a question in the chat. So maybe we can let Phil ask his question and then move on to the next section.
Sounds good. Thank you. Go ahead, Phil.
Okay, thanks. And sorry, I feel a little guilty jumping to the front of the line because I didn't put it in there. So I'll make it quick. I was just trying to follow up on what I was hearing earlier. And the question was asked basically about, hey, I think it was from someone in San Francisco, our students are at this level. We're preparing them for some entry-level jobs. They're not going to have that high. And I'm thinking at the time that, we could be preparing students within a path and they could be getting training within a course and go out into that and still be coming back to us, finishing that path. I think that was part of what Carolyn said at the time too. I know her point was that not everything has to be training at the time, but if I'm thinking about like the possibility of that within, let's say I decide to run a customer service path or retail sales within like a business information worker path. You don't just get to be manager. You start off working some of these very entry-level jobs, and we have classes that go with preparing them for that. It just so happens they move on and they go on to, hey, this is what you would need to do to be manager. But if I have a class that's saying this is what you need to do to be an entry-level retail salesperson or a customer service person within that, will that be considered a training class? And the reason I ask it that way is because by and large, that's soft skills. there's not going to be a lot of other stuff within it. So I just, anyway, if you can address that, because I think those would be legit, but I also don't want to run it and find out that it's not.
Yeah, it really sounds like something we need to look at the details of. So I hesitate to give an answer right now, especially as you describe it. You know, it really could be soft skills. I think what we would look at when you submitted your supporting documentation is what is the industry recognized training credential that the student has the opportunity to earn, and if that's transferable, how many hours are being offered, all those type of things. So it's in the details, I would say, with this one. Wish I could say more.
Thank you, Cory.
You're muted, Phil.
Sorry about that. To be clear on the details, though, like when you mentioned the certificate, getting back to that question of on-raps or prep, I mean, they don't have to get that certificate right then, right? They just have to be in a program that's going to give them that certificate at the end.
That gives the opportunity to get the certificate, yeah.
Okay.
That you're preparing the students to get that industry recognized credential.
Okay,
yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Thank you, Cory and Carolyn.
I
I think at this
If I could
point,
just mention real quickly, Marianne,
sure, go ahead.
that we are in the process of developing FAQs that we're going to release. And so thank you for all these questions. Please put more in the chat. We will take them back to our team and go over them and release that document soon. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Cory, and thank you everyone for these questions. I think we should go on in the interest of time to our next presenter, Lori Howard from CASAS, who's going to talk to us a bit about the IELCE plan and expectations related to the plan. And we can all take a look at the questions in the chat, and if time allows at the end, we can circle back to these. But thanks for all the questions, as they will inform future technical assistance and guidance. To you, Lori.
Thank you. So I'm Lori Howard, CASAS Program Specialist Coordinator, and I specialize in the IELCE program. And I just want to tell you a little bit what I'm going to tell you today, which is to identify the elements of the IELCE report and plan review process, identify the purpose and procedures of the IELCE fall check-in that some of you have participated in. And I want to describe the targeted technical assistance, we call that TTA, that IELCE agencies have been receiving from CASAS program specialists, reviewers, and CDE consultants in this fall check-in and in the clarification of courses discussed in the IET at a glance guide. So I'm just going to give you some information about that and what's been going on. So first of all, just to review, all 243 agencies are required to submit an IELCE report and plan each year. The new deadline is now March 31st. And I just wanted to mention this middle item here is that one of the requirements that we put in 23-24 was talking about the IET quality indicators that your agency would look at to see if your program has already been implementing or wanted to improve the quality of this quality indicator. And I mention this especially because in the next presentation by CALPRO, they'll be mentioning these IET quality indicators. So that's the IELCE report. And just to mention at the bottom, IELCE reports and plans are reviewed by CASAS program specialists and reviewers. We bring in some experts in the field to aid us in this review of the many agencies we have. And that will take place between March and June of this year. We try to finish up by June. Sometimes there are stragglers or administrators who are out for whatever reason and can't finish, but in general, we finish by June. So you have that review in your hand as you start the new year, July 1. So I want to tell you about the IELCE report and plan review process. So we begin the review as soon as they come in, and agencies that have not completed the form correctly or given us all the information we need to properly evaluate your program, we give you some targeted technical assistance. Just to mention also, usually earlier in the year, January, February, we do a webinar of how to fill out the form. And I know this seems like a formality, but what it tells us is exactly how you are implementing the program. So what's in the form is your implementation, and you're describing how you implemented it, what students were involved, what courses were involved, et cetera. So it is a mirror of how you are implementing the program. So it really helps us to see what's happening. So that's why the report and plan is so important. Once those who need it have been given targeted technical assistance and the review is complete, there are ratings. There are 3 ratings. The first is adequate, and the majority of agencies, I think 80 or 85 out of the 113 that we did last year are rated adequate. That means they meet all the requirements and of the plan. And then there's another section which is adequate with CDE review. That means an agency had 1 or more workforce training programs that was rated not adequate, but at least 1 that was rated adequate. So that tells us that you know how to do this, but for some reason, 1 program didn't go. And so we give you an adequate, but with CDE review, just so we're talking with you about how you can make it better. The majority of agencies that received this rating had 0 enrollment in one of their training programs. And we understand that, that happens sometimes, that you plan a program. Hopefully your needs assessment would help you see whether students wanted to enroll, but I know there are extenuating circumstances. The teacher didn't come through, the partnership with the community college didn't come through, something happened that caused you to have 0 enrollment in one program, but you're doing a good job in the other one, so we rate adequate with CDE review. The last rating is not adequate, and that means that that agency has 1 or more workforce training programs rated not adequate, and there's no adequate program. So those are the agencies we want to give extra help to, and those agencies are required now to participate in the fall check-in, which this year has happened September and October. So let me tell you about the fall check-in for those few agencies. There were just 10. They were notified of their participation in the fall check-in by the AEO office in September, and then CASAS program specialists or reviewers that had worked with them previously, in most cases, contacted them to offer targeted technical assistance. Okay, and so the fall check-in, they were encouraged to meet with their reviewer or program specialist and sometimes their CD consultant as a team so that we could see that everybody is working together. One of the hallmarks of IELCE is collaboration with other agencies, but mostly collaboration within your agency to make this all happen. And so we encourage the director or principal, the lead EL civics teacher or lead, the CTE lead, or the specific CTE instructor for the training program, and the data staff. And I guess I didn't put in here counseling staff, navigation staff, all the people involved in this. And as I said, collaboration is so important. They all needed to be here in order to make this program happen. And sometimes that is the reason it didn't happen well, or why the program was rated not adequate. So once these people got together, and I was lucky enough to work with one agency, and we had a great team of people that just, for whatever reason, didn't gather how it was supposed to happen. So I helped them, and all the CASAS program specialists helped them produce a realistic plan for implementation of at least one workforce training program. Again, we want one to get going and be implemented, and then we can always add on later. They needed to use the IELCE report plan and summary. This is a link to it. It's on the CASAS website, and it just lists all the items and questions and concerns that are in the report. So it allowed them to basically write a new report for this year. And they were looking at part 1, items 2 through 6 for the format and content. And we asked them not to go into their electronic system, but to write it in a Word document, Google document, something, so we have it there. And luckily, once they've done that, hopefully that's what they're going to use to implement their program. And then it can also be used to cut and paste into the 24-25 IELCE report. So it's not like this is wasted effort. They're going to use that to write their report in March. And then the other deliverable is that they verify implementation. So I'm having a meeting next week with the agency I worked with, and hopefully they're going to tell me what they've done so far and how it's working and how many students are involved, et cetera, just to make sure that everything's in place. Again, this process is to help agencies who perhaps haven't figured out how to make this happen, make it happen. The other thing we did this year, we don't expect it to happen next year, but because of the IET at a glance came out, and there was a clarification of courses which were workforce preparation and workforce training. All the agencies were sent a letter with this IET at a glance on 9/24. We've updated a little bit, and later today, the newest version dated 11/4/24 will be on the CASAS website, so you can look at it there, and that's the one that Cory showed you. And we also discussed this at the Yale Civics Network meeting, and I think there have been other meetings, but I didn't put them here. So this is what happened. The CASAS program specialists and IELCE report and plan reviewers reviewed all the reports, so all 93 reports that had been rated adequate or adequate with CDE review, to identify which courses we thought wouldn't qualify as training in 24-25. They were approved. They were rated adequate last year, but this year, because of the IET at a glance guide, they probably would not be. Now, we don't want to take complete responsibility. You should also, in that letter in CDE, ask agencies to look at their own work, but we were trying to be helpful. So hopefully those of you who had any kind of courses like that were notified about this. We wrote letters and said these courses probably will not be accepted. Targeted technical assistance was provided to answer questions, et cetera, and to assist in how things could be changed to make them acceptable for the 24-25 report. And then we collected information from each of the agencies, trying to figure out, what changes you were going to make to ameliorate this. Okay, and we are about to report that information to CDE, and we're going to use that information as we review in 24-25, so that we have record of, the notification, et cetera. And as we said, as the CDE said, those courses will not be considered workforce training in 24-25. Okay, so any questions for me?
Thank you, Lori. There is a question. Is there an official notification for agencies that pass the fall check-in for agencies tied to K-12 districts? Superintendents would like to see evidence of progress.
So I don't know, Cory, do you maybe want, Cory or Carolyn, you want to talk? We have submitted the plan that was written and the documentation of that communication we've had. I'm not sure how much farther we should go. So Carolyn or Cory, please.
Yeah, I would say the CD consultant could certainly provide that verification. So
should the superintendent request it, or how should that happen?
Yeah, I think the program should talk to the consultant and ask for that, and we'd be happy to give that.
Thank you.
Anything else?
I am scrolling, and I don't necessarily, there are a couple of questions here, Lori, about eWorks. For example, from Toybe earlier in the session, can eWorks or internship replace co-ops by any chance?
Well, I think that was answered by Cory.
Answered already by Cory. Thank you for reminding me. And eWorks is supposed to get you an industry recognized certification. We are working in soft skills. Still, you say it's not approved. That's from Alma Gutierrez. Can you speak to eWorks as or as not an industry recognized certification? How would you characterize eWorks?
Cory, did you want to answer that? Or
yeah, I can answer that. Well, I mean, as I mentioned earlier, right now we see that as workforce preparation. But if you feel strongly about it, please reach out to your CD consultant, your CASAS specialist, provide the documentation. We really appreciate that, actually, when you do that, because it helps us think through what is workforce prep, what is workforce training. I'd say the same thing about the Google and Microsoft Office that I see mentioned in the chat as well. That's something that agencies have submitted further documentation to us, and it helps us think through it, which is why on the At a Glance document, we put Microsoft Office Basics and Google Suite Basics. So if you're offering something more advanced, like for example, the Microsoft Office Specialist exam preparation that leads to perhaps the associate degree there, not associate degree, but the associate Microsoft Office Specialist, then that might be something that's allowable. And again, those are FAQs that we're working up. So really appreciate the questions.
And just to add on to that, I would just suggest you think about what job are you preparing the person for? Are those general skills that everyone can use for any job, or is it a specific job you're preparing the student for? And if you let the CDE know which specific job you're preparing them for, I'm sure that would be helpful.
I'll also just mention, since it's pertinent here, what's been really useful for us is this idea of the integrated syllabus. If you can submit to us a syllabus that has everything laid out on it, it really gives us a much better sense of what the program is, how the pieces fit together, how it's all integrated. So some sort of syllabus or integrated course outline is extremely helpful, and probably a good practice in the field as well.
Thank you, Cory, and thank you, Lori. I think, Lori, you have one more slide, and then we will move on. Go ahead.
I just wanted to offer some resources again for EL Civics, and these are all linked in the slides. California Civic Participation and IELCE webpage has everything you need, including the updated At a Glance. It will later today have that. And then just other webinars for requirements, basic requirements for civic participation and IELCE. Further information about COAPs. This one, which talks about all the elements you need to plan and implement an effective IELCE IET program in California, meeting the WIOA 2 IELCE IET requirements. And then a webinar about developing a single set of learning objectives, which Carolyn mentioned was such an important part of this program. And just lastly, I want to say CASAS has an EL Civic support channel. And if you scroll down into it, there are agency examples of agencies that are successfully implementing this IELCE IET program. And so there's at least 6 or 8 agencies that are there. And I would suggest you watch those videos, and each of them have each of the administrators and persons involved in those presentations have agreed to talk to anybody who needs help. So their email addresses are there, and please feel free to contact them.
Thank you very much, Lori. We appreciate the time you've taken. There are some questions, but in the interest of time, we will move on. The questions will be noted and retained. And with that, I think this is a good time to switch to our subject matter experts, Amy Dalsimer and Sudie Whalen, who are part of the CALPRO team and conduct CALPRO's IET clinic, offered twice annually, as well as develop and offer professional development opportunities on IET as a subject matter. I will note that Amy and Sudie are both founders of the National IET Advanced Design Camp effort on behalf of OCTAE, and Amy Dalsimer is really one of the founders of IET as a program model in the United States. So we're really very fortunate to have you, Amy, here kicking it off for us, along with Sudie, on IET and quality IET program design.
Thanks so much, Marianne. And let's go ahead and jump in. I'm Sudie Whalen. On with me is Amy Dalsimer. We're both IET clinic facilitators, as Marianne mentioned, and both of us are also connected to the Advanced IET project. While the 3 components of IET that we just reviewed with Cory and then also talked about with Lori comprise the service delivery model, the IET quality indicators that Lori mentioned earlier are a set of features that IET programs should aspire to have. So as Lori mentioned, these IET quality indicators are part of your IELCE plan. So we're going to take a closer look at what quality IET looks like, specifically through the lens of these indicators. Josie's going to pop the link into the chat if she already did it. Sorry about that. So you can access those quality indicators as well. As IET program and classroom leaders, you can use these quality indicators to really assess your existing IET programs and plan for new ones, identify priority areas for improvement over time, develop action plans to incorporate best practices and strategies, and also promote shared learning. The 24 IET quality indicators help identify features that your quality programs should have across 5 dimensions that are included on the slide. That includes IET program design, which refers to the intentional and unified design and development of a program that meets the needs of local labor market, provides a pathway to quality jobs while advancing equity, diversity, and inclusion, and aligns with federal and state policies. The second category is collaboration and industry engagement. This refers to the ongoing communication and collaboration with partners, employers, as well as students to ensure that the program meets the community's evolving needs, as well as establish processes and tools for communicating and fulfilling the program's vision and purpose. The third category is curriculum and instruction. This refers to high quality curriculum with occupationally contextualized content that includes the 3 required elements of IET design: that single set of learning objectives, opportunities for real-world application, and use of instructional technology that is responsive to student and industry needs. Then when we look at that fourth category, that's student experience and progress. Now, this refers to prioritizing student success through the provision of wraparound support services that address their basic needs as well as logistical barriers, and by using competencies, indicators, and feedback to communicate and demonstrate the learner's progress. That fifth and last category is program management, staffing, and organization support. This refers to employing data-based decision-making, effective communication strategies, and sustainable planning to support continuous improvement in all program components. Now, we're going to be referring to the IET quality indicators throughout the next couple of slides to help guide you in designing and implementing a comprehensive IET program. Now, these quality indicators, like I mentioned, are a set of features that you should aspire to have, and they're grouped into the 5 areas that I mentioned. We envisioned this as a tool to really assist the field with continuous improvement, and the quality indicators really help you within your program assess your existing IET programs while you're really getting ready to plan. Think about the indicators as being on a continuum. So in other words, you should consider adding them, or at least some of them, to your program plans, or use them to enhance your current programs over time. Again, I want to emphasize that these quality indicators are intended to help keep you on a continuous improvement process and keep continuous improvement in mind as you build and strengthen your programs. Our vision is to make these quality indicators really useful, and by adding practical examples into the process as you do this. So one person even asked, is there an integrated syllabus? Yes, there is an integrated syllabus that you can use as an example. And so we'll find, as when Amy talks about the resources, that a lot of things that are mentioned in these quality indicators, there are resources available to help you see what that looks like in practice and guide you in that process. So the first quality indicator is specific to IET program design, or the first category of quality indicators. The first one is specific to local labor market needs. So you want to make sure that you're being responsive to the labor market and also getting your students access to jobs where they can earn a life-sustaining wage. The second is making sure your IET program is designed as part of a career pathway. The third is utilizing your IET programs to advance diversity, equity, and inclusion by increasing access to in-demand jobs and workforce training and career opportunities. We often ask, when we're looking at this indicator, who am I already serving and who else could I be serving within my program? Number 4 is really all about establishing a common goal and vision for your IET program that aligns with student and partner outcomes. Number 5 is ensuring your IET program aligns with your state IET policies, like those that Cory was talking about earlier. Number 6 is about ensuring you have marketing and outreach that really speaks to the needs of your students, the needs of your community to have a successful IET program. Number 7 is ensuring that your intake and orientation services really help students onboard to your IET program successfully, and that they understand the expectations that are set before them. And then number 8 is really about ensuring you have multiple funding sources and then the resources that you need to plan and develop and deliver a successful IET program. Now, getting into that second category, that's collaboration and industry engagement. Indicator number 9 focuses on ensuring that you have regular and ongoing meetings with anyone that you need to collaborate with, including your employer partners and others to make sure you're meeting community and industry needs. Number 10 is about communicating the vision and the purpose of your IET program with all of your various community partners and members and anyone else who might have an interest in your IET program or the students that your IET program is producing to go into the workforce. And then number 11 focuses on communicating with and working within mutually beneficial industries and sector partnerships. This is one about those industry engagement pieces that's really necessary to connect your students to jobs, but also helps identify the learning needs of the industry. Now we'll move on to curriculum and instruction quality indicators. 12 is about ensuring that the curriculum that you utilize within your IET program is inclusive of those 3 elements of IET programs, or as Toby called it, the 3 legs of the stool. That's that workforce preparation, workforce training, or CTE, and basic skill attainment. Now, number 13 focuses on ensuring that you provide opportunities for your students to apply or practice their learning in an authentic real-world context. Number 14 really focuses on that single set of learning objectives and ensuring that those objectives align with the content or state level standards of the workforce training and workforce preparation, and that your basic skill attainment that was also mentioned in number 1 is included. Neil popped into the chat earlier the link to the CTE model curriculum standards, so you'll want to check those out so you can make sure you're aligning to your CTE standards, college and career readiness standards, or your English language proficiency standards if that language lift is needed to the CCRS. Now, number 15, that's that industry instructional technology and digital platform use. We know that students have to be able to use technology to be successful in the workforce, so you want to make sure that's integrated into your IET program. Number 16 is about ensuring your instructional material is based on evidence-based research and promising practices. And then lastly, number 17 is ensuring that your curriculum reflects sufficient industry-specific input. And that's where your industry partners are really important to help review curriculum and help make sure that you're meeting the industry needs. Now, student experience and progress is really important for student success and helping them to complete and persist throughout a program. Quality indicator number 18 focuses on ensuring robust career supports. Number 19 is about ensuring wraparound support services. And then number 20 focuses on ensuring you have tools in place for measuring and communicating success to the learner so that they know how they're doing. Now, this last category, the last section of the quality indicators is program management, staffing, and organization support. Number 21 is ensuring you have multiple opportunities for collecting, analyzing, and using data and outcome-based decision-making for continuous improvement. 22 focuses on ensuring you have a solid communication with students, faculty, and partner organizations to also support your continuous improvement. And then quality indicator number 23 is also about ensuring IET staff are supported adequately, have enough time to meet and plan, and can execute your IET program effectively. And last, but certainly not least, quality indicator number 24 is really about addressing sustainability and scale and planning for future IET programs and funding. Sorry, I hit a button and I can't get, there we go. All right, so as you consider the quality indicators, it's really important to note the alignment across all of these categories. They all lead towards student success within an IET program, and an important aspect of quality IET program design is ensuring that IET teachers and instructors are set up for success by having a shared vision. Means everybody needs to agree on why they're doing it and what it is that we're doing. Providing adequate planning time to include setting aside time for monthly professional learning, meetings for academic and CTE teachers to share data and progress. This also includes informal time. If we're on the same campus, we can talk to each other and check in with each other, that kind of thing. If we're not on the same campus, we can email each other to see how did it go? Is there anything I need to reinforce within my classroom time? The teachers also want to be sure to try to visit each other's classrooms. Basic skills instructors, whether that's ESL or ABE or literacy teachers, observing the workforce training or CTE classroom, but also allowing CTE teachers to observe the ESL and literacy teachers to see the time and intensity needed to acquire both skills and workforce training. It's really common for the basic skills instructor to observe the CTE class, but as a CTE teacher, let me tell you, sitting in the back of an ESL class is one of the most beneficial learning moments in my teaching career. career. So please take the time to observe each other and see each other in practice. You also want to set aside upfront and ongoing curriculum planning time to integrate lessons, adjust lessons as needed for student success, and make sure you can differentiate when needed. Focusing on student outcomes and the essential standards and skills the students need to acquire, you also want to be sure to make sure you have shared understanding of what the expected outcomes are and how they'll be assessed and measured. And then lastly, you want to make sure you're sharing success with your partners, administrators, faculty, board members, advisory committees, employer partners to gain their insights into the curriculum and instruction and make sure it's meeting the industry need. Employer partners specifically can be incredibly helpful in ensuring your IET student is acquiring the skills that are needed within the specific IET pathway. So now that you've heard all about what's included in IET programs and quality IET program design, I'm going to pass this to Amy Dalsimer so she can share with you some of the IET resources that we have through CALPRO and training opportunities CALPRO provides to help you along your IET program design journey.
Thanks so much, Sudie. We know that IET is not necessarily business as usual, and we're really excited to be able to offer you a number of resources that we know will be helpful to you and support your work as you design and implement and continuously improve your IET programs. I want to share with you that all of the resources we're sharing today are high quality, they're free, and they're accessible, and you can dip into these resources. Some of them are, low involvement, meaning resources you can look up, or webinars you can take for an hour, or training that you can take for an hour, and some are more robust and will involve bringing your team from your agency to a more robust PD offering. So there's lots of ways to access and utilize the resources depending upon what you're looking for and your needs. The place I want to start is with the CalPro IET resources. So you can take down this QR code. And we also just put the link in the chat for you. The way to access the majority of these resources is through our calproonline.org website. So pretty much all the resources I'm about to talk about you can get to through this main website. So I encourage you to make sure that you have it bookmarked. The first IET resource that I want to point out on our CalPro website is our IET virtual workroom. And again, if you use the QR code on your screen or the link that Josie's just posted in the chat, it will take you right to the IET workroom. And we're really excited about the IET workroom because it has a number of different types of resources that you can utilize. The first is our IET video library, which contains, I think it's 17 videos that really bring IET to life. And I find these videos super helpful in answering the questions about what is this, what are the role of the teachers, what are the students doing in class, how are the administrators supporting IET, and these videos I think really help you to see what IET looks like on the ground in a number of different programs. The second set of resources you'll find in the IET virtual workroom are research briefs, various IET resources, the IET toolkit, and all of the advanced IET resources and the resource repository that are being put out by the Advanced IET Federal Professional Development Project. These resources are geared for all folks working within the IET system, whether you're a teacher, an administrator, a counselor, a navigator. So I encourage you to go to these IET resources and take a look. The last resource you'll find in the workroom is the Self-Directed IET Fundamentals course, which I want to talk a little bit more about. First, though, I want to mention that a main resource that we think would be really helpful to you wherever you are in your IET design and implementation process is the IET Design Toolkit, which walks you through the process for designing and implementing and eventually evaluating an IET through the 4 iterative phases that you see on this slide here. The toolkit also has a number of desk aids for you that you can use with your team to help you in planning. So there's a lot of useful tools as part of this IET design toolkit. And I think, yeah, thanks, Josie. Josie just posted the design toolkit, the link directly to that as well. The other resource that you'll find in the virtual workroom are the IET strategies in action and spotlights. Sudie already posted one for us that was posted on partnerships. There are, at the moment, the first 4 briefs are available through the Advanced IET Federal Technical Assistance Project. So there's a brief that's focused on alignment with post-secondary education and practices that extend career pathways. There's a brief focused on IET practices that are connected to industry and labor market integration, and specifically industry and employer collaboration. The third brief is focused on IET practices that align with regional, statewide, and emerging sectors. And the fourth focuses on the role of navigators in IET and career pathways. I want to talk for a minute about the self-directed online IET course that you have that's available to you now. We've posted the direct link to that course on CalPro's website, and you also have the QR code here. This is, I would really recommend this course. This is a terrific introductory and foundational course. It's 2 hours on IET fundamentals, and it's self-directed so that you can share it with your staff, share it with your partners, and it offers a really quick introduction to what is IET, what are the required components, what do we mean when we say concurrent and contextualized, and what are the roles and responsibilities of the various professionals that are working within an IET program, integrated and collaborative model. So this course you can share with all of your partners to help, a sort of a quick way to introduce any new teachers you're onboarding, new employer partners, training partners to what is IET, and give them a good foundation. These are some of the learning objectives of those courses, so I won't read them all, but again, I think that one of the hardest parts about beginning work or even sort of improving the work that we've already done around IET is helping all of our partners and the players in this new integrated model understand, why are we doing this? What are the core design features, and why are they important? And identifying the roles and expertise of the team members, and what am I doing? What are you doing? How are we working together? Another resource that I want to share with you is the IET resource repository, which the Federal Advanced IET TA project has put together. This is a set of curated resources that have been assessed by IET experts nationally. They're organized into the same categories as the quality indicators that Sudie just walked you through, along with a 6th category focused on policy and funding. So this is a wonderful repository to visit depending upon what kind of questions you have. So I know we had a question earlier about collaboration and industry engagement, and how does that work in an IET model. So this resource repository and that section of the resource repository would be a great place to explore. In the curriculum and instruction, we get a lot of questions about what does IET curriculum and instruction look like. Many of you had questions about the integrated syllabus and the single set of learning objectives. So I would really recommend visiting the curriculum and instruction section. It's organized by some of the top IET sectors nationally. So healthcare, the trades. So again, these are great resources as you're beginning to kind of deepen your practice and also to go to with your questions. The last resource I want to talk about is the IET Clinic. implementation clinic that Sudie and I have co-facilitated for the last 6 years. I think more than or close to 100 California agencies have been part of this robust professional training opportunity. It is a 4-month training. We'll be recruiting for our spring cohort starting in January, and we encourage you to send an agency team. It is designed for teams, so we do ask that you send a team of an administrator or an IET coordinator along with your ESL or ABE instructor, your basic skills instructor, and your CTE instructor. The clinic offers 2 day-long virtual training sessions and 3 interactive webinars. We have an online community of practice, and the agencies design as part of this professional development training an IET implementation plan or their capstone project. So the clinic is really designed to help your team work together, collaborate together to design an IET program and a plan for implementation. And when the 4 months of training is through, all of the agencies that are part of the IET clinic are now getting 8 months of follow-up coaching to help. We know that moving from theory to practice is not always a straight line. And so the coaching, the coach is really there after the clinic to work with your agency to help them solve issues, challenges, access resources. So we would encourage you guys to look out for when the clinic application opens in January for the spring. And with that, I'm going to turn it back to Mary Ann.
Mary Ann, you're muted.
Well, what I did was thank you, Sudie and Amy, for taking time and bringing your expertise to this group. We are at the end of this session. There are a few questions that are posted in the chat. I don't think we're going to have time to get to all of those that haven't been answered, but Diana Batista from CDE made a comment a couple of times. Please, with any questions you have, reach out to your CDE consultant with respect to your own IET program design, IELC policy and programming questions. They're looking forward to receiving and refining guidance and support. With that, I'm going to, as Director of CalPro, really urge everyone who's here, if you felt that this webinar was illuminating, please do go to the IET virtual workroom, and there you will find the array of resources that in most part have very low threshold to engagement. You don't have to register to get into the virtual workroom. I would really urge you to, with all of your staff, have them take the self-directed course. That will get everyone you want on board with high quality IET program design, a foundational knowledge. And we're going to look forward to receiving more applications for the spring clinic. We are 2 minutes out, and I would like to give Cory and Carolyn, as our representatives from CDE, the final word, and then we are going to direct you towards the evaluation of today's session. Go ahead, Cory.
I'll give Carolyn the final word, but I just want to say thank you to everyone who's facilitated this fantastic webinar and to everyone who's attended. Thanks very much.
And my thanks as well to everyone. And we will be pulling the questions from the chat and looking at those and probably adding them to our FAQs that we're working on, as well as trying to answer them directly if we can.
Thank you, Carolyn. And Josie, I'm hoping you could bring us to the evaluation link.
Sudie actually is sharing right now. So yeah, can you?
Thank you.
Yeah, perfect. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We really would appreciate your feedback on this session. It helps inform the additional professional development we do on CalPro. And again, I want to thank Lori from CASAS, Cory and Carolyn from CDE, and Amy and Sudie, who are part of the National IET Technical Assistance Project, as well as part of this CalPro team. And thanks to each of you for attending today.